All right, so you've met our panelists through their individual presentations. And I don't know if you guys can see above you, but we've got a buzzword bingo board going with a handful of topics. I'm going to pick the first one, GIS and BIM. And for each one, just a couple of statements will pop up. I know they're kind of hard to see behind you. Some of them are full of buzzwords. Some of them not so much. This one definitely is buzzword full. GIS and BIM help create alignment amongst stakeholders from design through handover. I don't know if you could really argue that. GIS and BIM create a paradigm shift. We haven't heard that buzzword in a while. That was the big buzzword for a few years there, in operational efficiency. I was actually surprised because I didn't see your presentations until last night. And we had some of us had connected beforehand, but some not. So I didn't really know how much GIS you were going to interweave in your presentations. I was pleasantly surprised, to say the least. I got to assume that you all would say the same here, that you really wouldn't necessarily argue with this idea that GIS and BIM help create alignment, or that GIS and BIM together lead to operational efficiency. Maybe just kind of work down the line here. Paul, do you want to start off on this? You know, the impact of GIS and BIM? Nope. Nope. Any other microphone settings here?
Hey.
There we go.
Here we go. Well, yeah, wow. That actually sounded good, didn't it? When I see GIS and BIM, I'm actually like, well, it's about time, right? Like, how come this hasn't been done before? Because, and I thought of one of the great observations with the speakers was about location, location, location. How we have not taken a corner of a building and made it that it has a latitude and a longitude as an anchor so that we can have a real digital twin is just beyond me. Before BIM, the big move with GIS was actually in facility management, space planning, and that type of thing, right? About asset management, that type of thing. It's going to be interesting to see how many of us that build the buildings, not just operate the buildings, start to embrace what we've learned with FM and how GIS really improved the idea of managing not just the individual desk or chair, but the entire asset life cycle, approach to that. Yeah. The first one that starts to see that value, please let me know, because I'd love to actually steal it.
Ignasi?
Well, from my point of view, these are two nice paradigms. The fact that, for example, we can use satellite technologies to be directly connected to one BIM model, for me, is changing totally the scenario that we can work with. No? And this is something that we have to not know how to push it in our society, in our associations, in our collectives, but at the end, or we do more training from all of our side to all the people that is involved in these scenarios, or we will be slow, in this way.
I want to say one thing that I am figure out with what I was speaking about all of these things. I am architect. I was designer. Today I am technologist, and I remember when I was my first design with an architect, and they tell me, you have the parcel, you have 4 lines. Start the project. The project, only with 4 lines. Yeah. Don't worry. I make all the projects, and suddenly they give me to us the topography study, and okay, Jan, you try to adjust all the design, and okay, I need to make my work twice. Yeah, it's normal. And with another regularities, again, redesign. Today, when we are talking with the Basque Country government, for example, I put in the table that we need to change absolutely the way that we are making projects. when we start a project, we need a model with all of the GIS information that we can capture. And we need the exactly topography. And then we can analyze what type of intervention we can do in this place. And then, okay, a technician, you can continue with the design with the real situation. That's the way that I think that is absolutely necessary to change the way that we are doing the things today.
I think that you could look back over sort of BIM and GIS's relationship, but look back to the CAD days. And actually, CAD used to interface maybe through some lengthy workflows, but they used to interface together well. And they were used certainly in the airport space, in the rail space, city planning space, extensively. But really in a 2D environment, I think, where we're seeing now the integration of the 3D data sets, the mapping that we've seen today from the plane flying over Barcelona, and once we start to aggregate all of that data and have the locational awareness, the power really becomes exponential, and it isn't only relevant then to an architect or a designer, it actually becomes relevant to city planners, to business owners. We're establishing footfall and what shops are going to be prevalent in a new master plan, etc. So I think we're just starting to unlock the power. Predominantly that was all done locally on machines as well for many years. And I think as Marc presented this morning in his presentation, I think the fact that Autodesk and Esri have created a strong partnership to link our cloud platforms together is really starting to unearth the power here in the cloud and creating a lot of accessibility to the wider user community.
Yep. Great. Go ahead, Paul.
Just one last thing on that. I got this thing to work. That's why I just want you to know. Right? But technology guys, we're geniuses at this stuff. Right? The everything that was just said, fully agree, right? But I do have a request, because everything that we've been talking about, we're starting now to get into GIS as a map. But we live and breathe and work in a three-dimensional environment. And the geolocations now that we can have almost as like a three-dimensional Rubik's Cube needs to have an element that I implore Autodesk, and if the guys from Bentley and Graphisoft were here in Emenchek, I'd be saying the same thing. It's not about the visuals. Design is that's only one sense. How come we've never integrated sound into design? Ever. And all of a sudden, we have gaming engines that are allowing us to start to experiment that. Because right now, the experience of being here, you hear the white noise and the chatter. That's part of the design experience. Sound is so important. The other one's smell, but I don't know how to get that out of my iPhone. But at least start getting things right, because it's not, the data is not just about ones and zeros and coordinates. It's also about the experiences of the senses.
I remember when I delivered my final project for the architecture in the Faculty for Architecture in Barcelona. I delivered my project in 1992 in 3D and plotted. And the jury, we have 6 professors as a jury. I didn't pass the exam because they told me that the computer made me the project, and also the project was drawn by a machine and not by me. So I had to hire one person to redraw all the project, and then it was accepted, and then I passed with 7 by 10. I wanted an 11 from 10, but it was impossible. So the first thing that we need, I think, to manage is how the mindset of all the people that is more than the BIM scenario, because with GIS we are touching politicians, we are touching city managers, we are touching mayors, we are touching councillors, etc., 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 that with BIM normally they are not so involved, but see how difficult is that when the own professors of one school of architecture had this idea, you know? So it's something that or we take it very seriously, or we will not begin to be really an industrialized sector, as all the other sectors are.
So I want to jump to another topic. I don't know which one. I've got 9 or 10 more buzzwords up there. I'm inclined to go to smart cities because we talked a lot about that, but you want to jump on a topic here? Hold on.
It's the greatest marketing ploy ever. Because I
Smart
just have
cities?
to go up to I can go to any mayor in any city and go, well, you can be a smart city or a dumb city, right? And no one wants
Which
to
do
be a
you
dumb
want?
city.
Which do you want, a smart city or a dumb city, right?
Well, kind of. But, it's also a big bucket right now because, you say smart cities and you can throw smart buildings in there. And, of course, we saw the supply chain with the airports and just, and the integration that has to happen between getting your luggage out as an end-user experience. Sorry, Nathan Wood. His luggage is still in Iceland somewhere, right? But that's a case in point, right? So this idea of smart cities is to provide a way to communicate with the elected officials, because then they can communicate to their people that elected them to say, here's certain measures that we could put in place. So when I see cities go out there and say, hey, we're the smartest city in the world because we have smart traffic lights or street lights, I'm like, you know what? It's a step in a positive direction. It's trying to improve a community. That's really what this is about, because the flight to cities will only increase. I thought it was going to decrease. In certain cities in the U.S., New York, definitely Manhattan, with COVID, people didn't want anything about it. But now that things are receding, the flood is happening. There's never been a greater time of movement of human beings into urban environments than now. And our cities can't handle the things now. Just looking around here in Dublin, trying to get across town during rush hour, right? So it's about quality of life. So, the word smart cities, a lot of folks are saying, oh, we're going to name it cognitive cities, and they're going to come up with other marketing crap. But at the end of the day, I think the focus needs to be on human-centric, data-driven urban environments.
So I was just told we need to wrap it up. So just maybe a quick comment on this topic, and maybe we'll get back to this.
Very quick. For me, a smart city means smart buildings and smart streets. And for me, you can get smart buildings and smart streets when you have smart construction to do them. And you have smart construction when you have smart projects. So BIM and GIS is again on the table to help on that. But thinking really in which has to be the end of this pathway. No?
I only want to say one thing. BIM is almost is normally collaboration. GIS is maybe collaboration. Smart city, we need to be a real collaboration. We don't need to scan the cities 100 times, please, with different companies, Google, Esri, etc., etc. We need a real collaboration to get savings and to take these savings to improve the city, the real city.
I think smart cities are still pretty loosely defined at the moment. I think there's a lot of people trying to put some structure and some definition around it. I think we all have a high-level understanding of what we mean. I hadn't considered sort of the cars potentially being part of that smart city, the edge computing we heard about earlier. I think most people visualise it as the building, which is clearly a static asset in many respects. But I was in Dubai earlier this year at a digital twin conference, and I know in Poland they're running a test on citizens as sensors, and they have to buy into that. But again, everyone has their device in their pocket, and we're talking about the citizen experience and the quality of life. And we're asking our buildings, our cars, and manufactured components to tell us the satisfaction of our citizens. I think sometimes we maybe overcomplicate things, and actually getting the perspective of the citizens could be equally as impactful. And this is really where we need to rethink how we quantify what a smart city is, because it doesn't have to be mechanically led or man-made. We have a lot of natural things that, if trees start dying, their environment is bad. I don't need a sensor to tell me that. And I think this is something we need to rethink about. And it's how architecture has evolved to look back at nature, and actually that started to drive a lot of the forms we see in our twisted buildings coming out of Rhino. But yeah, that would be my take on smart cities.
Well, Paul, Ignasi, David, Lewis, we have a brilliant panel here. We probably could have a conversation for hours on many of these topics and many more. We're out of time. I want to thank you. I look forward to maybe following up on this. Maybe the five of us can get on our podcast maybe sometime soon and discuss many more of these topics. Thank you for your attention, your interest. We're here all day. Come back later for our next session after lunch. Thank you.